we're calling the meeting to order, and we do have a quorum. Today, it's hard to figure out exactly what our meeting purpose is other than doing our usual work, but we are going to have sort of an update on the future of education here in Vermont, and we know that's sort of a hot topic. So we'll be talking about that, and we're going to be getting our ends in order. Hopefully, we'll be reviewing them and possibly doing a first read. Is there anything anyone would like to add to the agenda, or any changes or questions to the agenda? Okay. Seeing none, I'll move on to public comment. Do we have anyone other than Orca? We have nobody else.
Nope.
So I'm going to move forward to the next item. And Michael, I'm going to have you introduce for us our new employee.
That is great. I am so happy to introduce Mindy Beth Pike. Mindy Beth is the very first Orange Southwest Director of Curriculum and Student Achievement. And so she's doing our Central Office Administrator welcome presentation. She's going to introduce herself and her role a little bit to you so that you understand what we're looking at, so the public understands what we're looking at. It's all yours now, Mindy Beth.
Hi everybody. I'm Mindy Beth Pike. Thanks for letting me take a few minutes to kind of introduce myself and the role that I'm trying to take on at the school. So just a couple key areas of responsibility I wanted to talk about, and some exciting things that we're working on in those areas. So the first one is curriculum oversight and instructional leadership. So a couple exciting things that are happening this year is we're implementing our first proficiency-based report card in the elementary school. There'll be a lot of work around that and how to push that out and talking about proficiencies and best practices. We're going to go ahead and start an NGSS science group in the elementary and start really thinking about how we can be beefing up our science and implementing that more across the school day. And we're hoping to get a STEM group started and really start talking about what STEM means in education and starting those collaborative conversations. Another focus is on student achievement and data. So we do have a data and systems manager, and she's doing a great job so far. She's working really hard to get EduClimber up and running, which will be our data warehouse. It'll make it more efficient for us to analyze data, figure out what our problems of practice are, and meet student needs. And we're also working to build a data analysis system to include in regular meetings at our cabinets, our principals meetings, our interventionist meetings. And we're also going to be working on a reporting system that we can use to help each month for you to know where we're at with our ends and our CIP goals for title. So more to come on that. Another key piece of what I'm working on is professional development for teachers. We had a really successful in-service, a lot of positive feedback, and we're going to work our way through figuring out what our professional development needs are for this year and the next 2 years, and I'll implement a plan for that. And we do employ 2 half-time coaches, one for math and one for literacy, and they are already in it at the schools, helping with assessments, coaching teachers with whatever they need, and I meet with them regularly. Kind of going back to data for a little bit here in terms of grant management and that continuous improvement plan, really focusing on improving math, reading, particularly early literacy, and science this year. So those are really our focuses when we're thinking about PD or the work that we're doing with teachers for instructional coaching. Yeah, those are the big things that are happening, and I'm really excited, and the staff seems excited, and everyone has ideas about, different things that we can do to improve OSSD.
Super. Are there any questions for Mindy Beth from the board?
You used an acronym, I think, NGSS around science. Could you just elaborate what that is?
And yeah, sorry, it's filled with acronyms, right? It's the Next Generation Science Standards. So those are the national standards that we use for science education. So the idea is that that group would come together, really study those standards, and re-look at the science curriculum that we have to make necessary improvements for growth.
Thank you.
I'll just inject a quick comment that I've encountered. My son's an educator in Florida, and they've gone to pushing STEAM as opposed to STEM, where they had A for arts.
Yes, and currently we use STEM in elementary, STEM in elementary, and STEAM in the high school. And I know that that group that's coming together really wants to talk about, can we make a STEAM across the board, and how do we pull in the different teachers that match, with the arts and math and sciences to do some collaborative work instead of a standalone course.
Nice. Okay, any other questions before we move on? All righty, so
Thanks, Mindy
next,
Beth.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, and you can sign off now. Carry on. Super. So next up, we have the update on H454 and what's happening at the state level.
Nice. So I think that as you look at my report this month, I really purposely aligned it right with the agenda so that you could follow along should you want to, or should the community want to. There were several big things that have happened under H454 in the last month, since last time we were together. And I'm gonna think you all are familiar with most of it. So this is a lot of, for the community that watches the video of this or whatnot, kind of part of what we're doing is we're educating the community. So the redistricting task force met again today. The first couple meetings that they had they really feel really organizational, kind of getting themselves ready. They did put out a template that if districts wanted to propose a voluntary merger, kind of how they could pull that together. So they had sort of a uniform way of looking at it. And shortly after we met with Payne Mountain, I shared with you some updates that had happened, including a tool that lets you build your own district, find out if you meet the 4,000 to 8,000 student requirement. And I included the link in my written report that is part of the packet that's on the website. The next thing I'm going to talk about as far as Act 454 or 73 is your conversation with Payne Mountain, which you had back on August 20th. Again, felt it was a really cordial meeting. There were similarities between the districts, size-wise between the towns. There was representation from Barry Unified Union School District at the meeting. Say they mostly participated in a listening campaign, but they did sort of share some of the same concerns that we had, especially around the accelerated timeline. I think I kind of sum it up as you spent a fair amount of your time talking with the Payne Mountain Board about, do we sit back and let the state make its decision, or do we proactively get out there and sort of start looking at what kind of opportunities do we have? I would say that there was a pretty solid consensus around, maybe even unanimous, that actively communicating with our communities is something that we need to be doing, kind of getting people ready for this. It's really unprecedented times in Vermont. So you all have a lot more information than most of the communities do. And I feel like we're technically about 3 months away, right? November, or
End of-
October, November, and December.
Right.
And we'll be knowing what the new proposals for the merged districts are. And it feels like I have many more questions than I have answers,
Right.
right? So I think that sort of summed up your Payne Mountain conversation. I'd be happy to pause for a minute if there were other things that you wanted to add to the Payne Mountain conversation. That was my perception of it.
It wasn't necessarily part of the conversation, but it was sort of, I was expecting more from White River Valley to be present. Any comments on that regard?
I got White River Valley and their proclamation two chunks away.
Okay.
I personally, it's just the idea that it's coming early December, that it really gives us very little time to alert the public that there's going to be some sort of decision made by this committee to divvy up districts into these groups.
But
So
the decision doesn't take effect immediately.
No, in
No.
fact, so I think what you'll see is, remember the committee's charged with 3 different possible merger configurations. One of them has to include supervisory unions. And then it's for the legislature to decide what it wants to do. So, this could go to the legislature and the legislature says we choose choice number 2. Or it could go to the legislature and the legislature says we don't like any of these options. Keep studying. So who knows at this point what it's going to look like.
Can I garner some feedback from this group? One of the thoughts that I kind of stumbled on at the Williamstown setting was thinking, maybe what should be happening is try to hold on to local school boards more or less as they exist relative to the elementary grades. And then have something that may evolve that would be middle school, high school. My concern is that I think that there still needs to be a sense of local control.
Anybody want to add anything else about Payne Mountain, or I'll jump onto Up for Learning? So Up for Learning is the student leadership, student-led visioning work about what they're looking for, what kids are looking for in a bigger, more regional district. And it is not. And I did a meeting with superintendents between the last time we met and now, and had to just really make it clear that the kids aren't looking at, well, should OSSD, Payne Mountain, and White River Valley get together and create a district? No, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about what kind of opportunities are we looking for in a district? What is the responsibility of schooling within a district? How could it be different under these 4,000 to 8,000 kid districts, or what makes it worth doing? And again, as I said last time, I don't think the state's done a good job of getting input from students. So we are on board. We have reserved a space at the state university. Our first time of getting kids together up there is going to be on the 30th. Formal invitations went out to all of the districts that you had. Payne Mountain and I sent invites to the conversation, and we'll see what that looks like. On Friday, I'm going to start my recruiting campaign here to find folks for that. So I'm excited about it. It's coming along. There's a little nervousness actually I'm feeling here as I start talking about it, saying I for a long time have said to education leaders in Vermont that Vermont does not have a vision for education. Our local districts have visions for education, but Vermont itself does not have one. And so sort of have put my money where my mouth is a little bit to see if we can come up with that at a regional level in trying to follow a timeline that lets us have an impact on the decision-making process that the task force has. So I've crammed what I would normally try to do over the period of a year, maybe more, into the 3 months to see what happens. But so I'm really excited about that, and I'm looking forward to updating you in October on how the first meeting of that actually went and who joined.
Quick question about it. Are these meetings gonna take place during the school day, or is it gonna be an after-school thing that the kids do? Both.
Oh, so what's gonna
Okay, so
happen
it's-
is the students are gonna get training on how to facilitate, because they're also gonna go out and they're gonna do some of the work that that you and Payne Mountain talked about. How do we get this education out in the community? I see their opportunity to go out and facilitate, like, there's gonna be an Orange Southwest group and have them facilitate a meeting or meetings where community comes in and talks about what it would be looking for out of a larger school district. What would that be? Again, really clear. I just gotta keep hammering at home that they're not out there to solve the governance problem. That is the legislature's problem. That's their job and maybe your job. But it's not our students' job to figure out what the governance structure should look like. It is their job to inform what they would like it to include. What could happen, one of the pieces looking at that is how do we, if we're thinking about a regional school, what does that offer? Or do we offer specialty schools along the way? What kinds of things are they hoping that they can get out of it? So tying that in.
How are you recruiting students and how many do you expect to be on the kind of panel?
So
It's called?
great question. Each school district, we've got about 6, maybe 8 slots for kids from each of the invited towns.
Okay.
And so my first part of recruiting is to reach out to our teachers here and say, okay, I need help. I'm going to be at all of these meetings. I don't necessarily need you to volunteer to be away from your classroom and go. You can. I'm looking for that too. But what I'm really looking for is how do we draw in students? And so I'm going to leave it to the teachers and students in the building as the experts to say, how do we generate that interest and what does that look like? Do we have 8 kids that want to do that already? I've got 8 slots. Do we have less? Then that's easy. Everybody who wants to do it will do it. And if it's not, how are we going to select? What will that look like? And again, the timeline of all of this doesn't allow me a lot of time to pull this together, right? And so that's it's been the trick all along, is that we're cramming a year or 2 years worth of work into 4 months.
Right.
So
Years back, really years back, I was part of things at the Battle Creek Outdoor Ed Center that was an intended effort to try and take care of some of these racial divides that they had within their district. It's a huge district. They intentionally sought student leaders, positive and negative, to be a part of a teaming effort they put them through all kinds of group dynamics to make them team and listen and hear each other and things along that line.
Yeah.
It really did a lot to help with the divide within the community.
Yeah.
But I'm asking, with this in mind, yes, we're looking for 6 to 8 student leaders, but are we intentionally seeking the diversity among those leaders so that we aren't necessarily targeting to a special audience kind of scenario?
So I'm looking for a broad perspective, which would say, yes, I'm looking for diversity of leaders. And, that's sort of what I'm tasking the educators to figure out, right? I'm not micromanaging a process to do that. I'm looking for the outcomes and saying, deliver this to me. And keep in mind that what I'm looking at here is less than 3 months. I've only got 4 meetings of these kids in order to do this. So this is not not going to be ideal.
Yeah.
But it is a way to get some input out there and to get some of those students leading some community work. But I mean, I think I said it maybe a little bit at the Payne Mountain meeting. I think one of the big things that you're done by meeting with Payne Mountain is you're getting out there that this is happening. Right? So to me, this is a start, and I don't know where it's going to go or how it's going to be. I know that the timeline that we put this on, to me personally, feels like it has made the process truncated and not as powerful as it could be.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you going out and encouraging not only community voice, but student voice in this, and trying to get it all done in this, you know, shrunken timeline. So, because I don't know if students are aware that this is coming down the pike either.
Yep.
And so, any other questions for Michael regarding the Upper Learning Project?
All right, I'm gonna jump into White River, Martha. Here we go. So White River, it's meeting on August 5th, put out the proclamation, and I gave you the essence of the proclamation in your packet. And I'm gonna read it right here. So the White River Valley Supervisory Union, being composed of the member districts of Granville, Hancock, Rochester, Stockbridge, White River Unified, First Branch, Sheridan, Stratford, is committed to remaining a supervisory union within a larger governance region to the extent practicable under the terms of Act 73 of 2025. White River Valley Supervisory Union will reach out to contiguous school districts and supervisory unions to explore combining into a larger supervisory union. So their superintendent reached out to me and reached out to the other superintendents sort of in the area, group fairly similar to what you reach out to. And so I picked up the phone and talked to that superintendent. Superintendent is Jamie Canarney, and he's been at that district for a few years now. And so I wanted to kind of feel out what were they looking for? Because they right now, I think I counted right and remember right, there are 6 district supervisory union. And so y'all haven't been in a supervisory union structure for quite some time. And your communities may not even really realize what a supervisory union model is. So what happens in that is each of those districts that I just read have their own board and are responsible for their own budgets, their own audits, their own teacher hiring. They function, they do all the things that you all do, they do. Okay? But they have each board there that operates a school has 3 representatives from that board that are also on a supervisory union board. If any of those districts don't operate a school, they get 1 representative under state law to that board. And so the supervisory union board runs essentially the central office. They take care by statute, special education, transportation, the business functions of each of those school districts plus the supervisory union. I think I got transportation already. Food service is pretty common for them to manage, but they don't have to. And the supervisory union, so essentially would have, when you think about it from this district standpoint, all of the people who are associated with central office would be in that supervisory union office. And then all of the special educators by law are under the supervisory union as well. So those teachers would be part of the supervisory union. And so the supervisory union provides those services for all of those districts. When I just came to you from Grand Isle, when I started with Grand Isle, there were 5 district boards and the supervisory union board. So 6 boards, pretty close to what this was. And so it just operates kind of in a different way. What happens is the supervisory union board is the board that hires and evaluates the superintendent. And then the superintendent, the best way for me to describe it is more like a contractor with the local boards. The local boards don't actually have any supervisory responsibility as individual boards to the superintendent. They send 3 members to the SU board, which evaluates the superintendent. So it changes the relationship in some ways. But what White River Valley is looking to do is increase the number of districts that their supervisory union services. So what they are reaching out to say is, hey, Orange Southwest, we'd be happy to take you in as an Orange Southwest district. Kind of to Martha, what Martha just described a little bit, wouldn't change a lot of your governance structure. So you'd still be the board that was responsible for hiring all of your teachers, all of your paraeducators, all of that stuff that you do. What you would stop being responsible for is the central office functions. You'd instead send 3 members to a supervisory union board. Okay. And in the structure, if you were the only one to join them, the structure would be 7 districts. I think they all operate at least 1 school. So I think that would be a 21 member board. That would be the supervisory union board. And if they pulled in Payne Mountain and Echo Valley, now they're up to a 9 district board, and 24, they get a 25 because Echo Valley operates the early, so they also have 3 representatives. So we're up to a 27 member board with that. Okay, so they're kind of moving along. So my question was, having been my whole career before here was supervisory unions, the question that I would be asking if I were interested in having a conversation with the folks up in White River Valley is there ever an interest in White River Valley in potentially starting to bring in these new districts, figuring out how to consolidate like configurations? So the districts that have K to 12 or K to 8 or K to 6 or whatever, they have all these different configurations, bringing the total number of boards down to something more manageable, and maybe those local boards being a little bit bigger, but they would be focused, like you'd be part of the K to 12 and any of their K to 12 districts would be with you. And you'd all be focused in on K to 12 issues. Because I think what you find, what I've found is that the things that the way a K to 8 school operates and a K to 8 district operates is different than the way a K to 12 operates. K to 8 with choice 9 through 12 is a whole different thing than what we're doing here. So, and it sounded like maybe there would be some interest in that in the future. I think that they're not interested in that to start with. They're just simply interested in what I understand. And keep in mind, this is like an hour conversation, but they're looking to say, hey, state board, if you'd like to assign people to our supervisory union, we're happy to take them in. If y'all wanted to have a conversation with them, I think you could say, hey, let's get Ann or Michael to send their chair a quick note saying, hey, we'd be interested in having a conversation with you, much like you have had with Payne Mountain, much like how we started with Payne Mountain. The difference is, going in that they're not interested in merging into a single district. Right? So that's a little bit different from where.
Now that structure's been in place now for what, 5 years? Is that pretty?
For them?
Yeah.
They've been in that structure for a long time, as the supervisory union structure. Yeah, because what happened is, so they've been in a supervisory union structure for a long time, Martha. What they did in that district, I believe, is some of those paired up districts created districts. So they unified. So like, I don't know when Rochester Stockbridge became a district. At one point, I would not even, not, I would be brave enough to go off the cuff and say there was a Rochester district at one point and there was a Stockbridge district at one point, and they, in Act 46, they merged into a unified union school district, which they call the Rochester Stockbridge. And so I think that they did some of that in 46, and then they still operated under that White River Valley Supervisory Union because, and I know they did that because I don't even know how big Rochester and Stockbridge are, but I know they're tiny. And so suddenly they're responsible for all of the central office work that happens. Like, you know, you've been asked, you asked the question last meeting about administrators and what that looks like. And later in today's meeting, we're going to talk about what that looks like. But look, when you get to the part where you're looking at your special ed, who's in charge of special ed? Because our special educators do a great job, but they don't handle the administrative part. And it's huge, the administrative part of special ed, the curriculum, the kinds of things, getting that organized and moving within a district that Mindy Beth kind of talked with you quickly about this afternoon, right? There's these different pieces. And so when you're in these tiny little districts, you either take a piece of somebody else's job and you do that, you become that. I know this because I was the superintendent for the tiny little Essex Caledonia Supervisory Union, right? And as that superintendent, it was my first superintendent job, I was the superintendent, I was the director of technology, I was the facilities director, right? I feel like I had another job, but I don't remember what it was right now. But can you imagine trying to be, it's a small school, but I still had all the reports that I have to do here. It's had to reach out to more people to figure out what the answers were. And it was for less kids, right? So it was really a pretty impossible job. I would say, oh, it's the grants manager. That's the one that I forget because I was also the curriculum director. Blocked that out, right? So on top of all the things I was doing, I was figuring out why the router in different buildings weren't working, you know, and how to make that happen. So it just doesn't, in order to be efficient, you've got to have enough kids and enough staff so that there's the work that gets done. I used to say it like this. I managed the grants in Essex Caledonia in an okay way, right? We got our grants, we didn't lose money, but did we get any of when Heather comes and talks with you about how she pulled back the late liquidation in Essex? I would have never even thought for a second in Essex Caledonia that I was going to consider late liquidation. That money was gone and we're moving on, right? I couldn't have done it. And so that's the piece. And that's what I wonder about with the White River Valley as they get bigger and they add districts in. As a superintendent, I was always at all of my district's meetings. So how do I get there? How do I work? And what's the preparation as a supervisory union? My job in Grand Isle is different than my job here. In Grand Isle, I was constant. Every week there was at least one official board meeting, which meant I had to work with the chair to plan the meeting, to make sure that we had the minutes taken, and then we got everything posted afterwards, right? So there's a lot of work that goes into that. So my job there was at least, I would bet you it was 60-70% managing board work. Versus here, I'm doing this really cool up for learning thing, right? I mean, some of this other thing, getting out in the community and saying, hey, what's going on? That said, what White River Valley offers you is communities that are more of like size. I think what we heard a little bit about, and what I'm starting to kind of, as I feel what to me it's looking like the conversations are happening. Something's happening with Barry, Montpelier, the U32 or the Washington West, right? Washington Central. It's looking to me like something might be happening there. And they maybe have an interest in, can we pull in Pain Mountain or part of Pain Mountain? Pain Mountain's sort of looking and saying, well, what do we really do? What does that look like? Who would we go with? I think Pain Mountain is recognizing potentially that if a town like Williamstown joins up with Barry, they're significantly smaller, their representation changes there. So what White River Valley offers you from a political standpoint is you're partnering up with people more your size.
And Roxbury?
Yeah, I mean, I don't, right? Who knows? Who knows what they, but Roxbury's the cautionary tale, right? They complied with 46, they created a merger. I wasn't here, but I'm gonna guess that I was in Vermont at the time, that they were looking for a way to keep their school open, which they did for a couple of years, until the finances of it didn't work. And so there is that piece. So I think that you as a board are sort of faced with a decision here. You know that White River Valley is interested and would be willing to talk with you. Are you interested and wanting to talk with them to see what they're thinking about? That's kind of, I think I summed that up maybe in a tighter wrapper in the packet, but I think it's there.
So
Did you have a chance in the conversation to explore the thought of, when you've got Chelsea and Tunbridge with their small little numbers, et cetera, having 3 as opposed to Royalton's 3 kind of scenario, you need some place to consider some point, I would think.
Feels like we need to be at a higher level. Like those are the details that occur. Like it seems like we're getting into really specific things that are like
down the
like
road.
yeah,
Yep.
and that we're really at a much
Yeah.
earlier, higher level.
But what I want to know is, have they considered anything where it might be more representative by the number of people you're serving?
I would imagine they have not. I would imagine that they're not interested in that.
So just to be clear here, Jamie Canarney is the superintendent for this union,
Correct.
for all of those schools.
For all those schools.
It's an interesting piece of advocacy you put here. That doesn't seem very I don't know,
Well, Michael's always said that if it's for the betterment of kids, he will work himself out of a job.
yeah, that's pretty true.
And it's true. Done it, would do it again, right? I think that if it's what's going to be better for kids, then hey, away you go with it, right?
Sure.
When you look at I think what we sort of reached out to White River Valley and Pain Mountain thinking and Barry is we're looking to create one district is what I think our conversation has been more looking at. So instead of, even if it was just White River Valley, Central Vermont and us, that's 3 superintendents going into one, same number of schools. To me, Ryan, the difference in that scenario is what the superintendent focuses on in a supervisory union really is that governance mechanism. They spend a huge amount of time on the governance mechanism. And I think that when you get up into those bigger numbers, you're going to have other people supporting some of the other
Absolutely.
things.
What is the risk though of an entity like this, the supervisory union, being dissolved by whatever happens over the next few years with the legislature?
So the legislature is going to create the 3 scenarios. One of them has to include supervisory unions as part of the equation. And the other 2 may or may not, may have a mix. Maybe they'll propose one. They could go back to what the governor proposed right at the beginning. They could go for the 5-district model, right? Sorry, I couldn't resist that. I don't really think they're going to do that. But it could be just districts, or it could be a mix of districts and supervisory unions, and then it could be one with all supervisory unions. Who knows?
Seems to me like it's like having conversations and exploring options is a wise thing to do. The drawback is that it takes time.
Yeah, and I'm kind of aligning with this idea that, yes, it does take time, and I'm wondering like how much of it is gonna, whatever efforts we do now are just gonna get clobbered
right.
in another
Right.
year or
That's
two.
right.
Cause I feel like
That's
the
what we
risk of
consider.
being, imagine if we join something like this and then it gets wiped away by whatever decision the legislature
Right.
makes. It just feels like whiplash for the community. I don't know. That's my big hesitation with this, is the amount of the clobbering risk.
The whiplash for the community was felt by the White River Valley scenario, but honestly, with less dynamics than I would have thought. I've worked in all those schools, so.
Well, thank you.
Curious with the supervisory union structure and each district maintaining their own school boards. Does our governance model work in that framework?
Yeah.
Does it continue to work?
So you could stay,
Policy governance.
yeah, so what I would, if I play out in my head what it would look like for the Orange Southwest District to join a supervisory union, you have deeply embraced policy governance. I would imagine you're going to continue to be a policy governance board, and that's delegating a whole bunch of things to the superintendent. Ann and I were talking about that within the last week, about all of the things that you've delegated to the superintendent. In a supervisory union, my experience is, how about this? The Albert board used to approve its building use forms. Who could use the building and whatnot? To that level of micromanagement. So I wouldn't see you going back to that. I wouldn't see a superintendent wanting you to go back to that. That's,
So if we are a board, if we were to join a supervisory union.
Yep.
And we lose our personal superintendent, we
Correct.
got a group superintendent.
Yep.
Who does what you do
Yeah,
right now?
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm assuming that
Would
it's
the administrator
gonna get,
from the school?
I don't think so. No, I think it would stay at the superintendent level. And I think what the superintendent's gonna have to do is delegate out different pieces to leaders
From
sort
the
of
central office.
under that. I think your central office is growing in that scenario in some way.
Yeah. uh-huh.
Is-
Right?
It'd be interesting to hear what
We don't really so
Jamie
much
has to say as far as the dynamics of that playing out within what's
Mhm.
involved there.
Curious how superintendent is gonna deal with that many different.
And what does that mean for local control? Like if you're working with someone who is at a lower level within a larger district, it seems like leadership is going to be, it's going to be distributed more across. And it seems like there's going to be a lot more like, not necessarily prioritizing what one local board wants.
Where's Jamie based out of? Like, where's Jamie's central office?
Right next to what used to be Dimick's trailer place.
What town?
It's- Hmm?
What town?
In Beth.
And well, no, it's Royalton,
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Yeah,
right
pretty-
near the mobile station,
yeah,
or
pretty
it's
centrally
now
located.
Maplewood,
Okay. Interesting.
right near exit 3.
I mean, that is a big concern too, is like, we're facing this potential giant loss of control with the redistricting. Are we going to immediately, forgive me, but surrender local control, to join a supervisory unit before that even happens, right?
Right.
Before we're forced to.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
one thing I'm trying to keep in mind here is like what's the state's objective, and I think what Jamie's trying to do is get out in front of it. And the state's objective, I think, is to generate cost savings, but I don't necessarily see significant cost savings under this supervisory union model. If you're still each board is still managing their own budgets, their own facilities, their own staffing. And then, yes, there's an argument to be made that there's some consolidation in administrative, but just as we all just kind of joked around the table here, I don't really see it. Like you're gonna need somebody at Michael's level in every school school system. So school district. So I guess my biggest question for them would be, where do you guys see cost savings?
Michael, did you propose this to us just so we would appreciate you more? Was this a giant gambit?
No, I propose this to you because there is a lot, it's a great question. I proposed it to you because
Because we're invited to the table.
you are, and I think that I think that as you're looking at the partners and the potential of letting the state make up its mind, there's nothing that stops the state from saying, we'll go out, instead of me creating a thing here, go out and start clicking on the towns on that tool
Yeah.
and see how many of the towns that you can add together
It's a lot.
and get
It's a
to
lot.
8,000.
It's a lot.
Yeah,
Right?
I did
So-
it. How many of us tried it?
We're talking about like a district that runs from Northfield to Hartford.
Right.
Yeah.
I spent a solid 2 hours on that. I was actually going to send an invoice to you, Michael, for that.
I would have forwarded it to the redistricting committee if you had, Sam. But no, I think that that's what you're looking at. So part of the reason there's two reasons that I think that you should be having conversations right now. One, the more conversations you have, the more likely there are that the community is going to hear about this and think, wait, is this what I want? Is this the vision that I have for education? And then the second piece is, if you leave it up to the state, I mean, who knows? They could put, why not go Randolph, Brookfield, or Braintree, or Brookfield, Randolph, Braintree, Roxbury, Montpelier, and then we'll come up to Berry, grab them in that. There's our new district, and we still might not have enough. Who knows?
Sure.
Right?
Um,
You
Yeah.
could,
Curious, did
Yeah,
you go
you get-
west
you get-
at all? I mean, go east at all? Did you go to Bradford at all?
Well,
Oh,
so
God, no.
Bradford, that's an hour to Bradford.
Well,
So-
it's an
Not
hour
an
to,
easy
there-
Yeah, I've been thinking about this. So a number of years ago, around the time we moved back to Vermont from Maine, took a very serious look at redistricting. And they did massive consolidation across the state. And a few years into that, unfortunately realized they did not have the cost savings that they anticipated to see. They had a lot of fractured relationships at the local level, and they have ended up in a quagmire of trying to undo this sort of rapid paced consolidation. I think we're trying to do something at a rapid pace at the state level, while we're also trying to reimagine how we deliver healthcare in this state.
Yeah.
And that's also on a fast track. AHS Director of Healthcare Reforms leaving at the end of the month, and the consulting firm that they had to work with the hospitals is now no longer working with the hospitals. And they're trying to, halfway through this fast track, refigure out what they're doing. So my concern in the greater political climate is it feels untenable at the local level. And when I think to the macro climate, it feels even more untenable. That being said, I think it's worth having a conversation with White River Valley. Having a conversation does not mean we're joining their supervisory union. We do need to do something different in this state. We have a failing high school building. And so I think we don't know the possibilities until we have those conversations. It does take time, but I think this is a problem that needs to be solved, and I don't necessarily want to rely on the state to do it because I've sort of seen it not go well.
And at the very least, if one was to do something like this, you're able to tell the state, hey, look, we've already kind of figured it out. Why not, in your deliberations, keep us in this entity we've created?
And I think the other thing is if we get forced into something with a much larger district, which is the cautionary tale of Roxbury, they wanted to join OSSD, but we had enough of a numbers that we did not have to absorb them. They wanted to join what is now Cane Mountain, and that and they could never get votes to fall in a way for them to join them. So they drive through 2 districts to get their kids to elementary school. And I think if we leave it to the last minute to get forced into something, we may end up in a similar situation where we're we're a really small district in comparison with something larger, and then we've lost our local control, we've lost our, we lose a lot in that scenario. So I think it's worth having the conversation. I think they're similar size or smaller schools. I think they're really similar communities to our community. They have a lot of pride in their small towns and their local schools, and I think it's worth having the conversation. I do want to know if they own the bus company though, because that might make or break it for me, because we have really good transportation in this district, but.
The safe bet is no.
Yeah.
Right? That not many people still own their own bus companies.
That's interesting. Yeah, just a throwaway comment here, but Stratford feels like almost geographically inappropriate to this whole group, but I guess maybe not. I'm not sure. I just think of that.
It's not that far over from Bethel.
Yeah,
It really
oh,
isn't.
yeah.
So
When I-
if,
Oh, go ahead, Sam.
I was just gonna, kind of go off of what Emil was saying there about what happened in Maine. And if you remember, Act 46 was supposed to create all this cost savings, and that really didn't prove to be the amount that folks thought. And so now folks, there are arguments out there, well, it didn't go far enough to realize cost savings, which means in my mind that the state is going to be willing, well, it's still up for vote, but the state will be willing to make pretty significant size districts outside of our control. Not that we have a ton of control in this right now anyways, but I guess I would agree that having a conversation would be prudent. But I still go back to where are the cost savings under the supervisory union model in this scenario.
Because our central office is not a giant portion of our budget.
I asked a question once about how many administrators there were, and I've seen something circulating I don't think it's true at all, suggesting that there are 11,000 administrators across Vermont.
Oh, in the state of Vermont.
And if people are hearing that, they think, well, I could cut a whole bunch of that if I have just 10 districts and only have 10 supervisors.
Yep.
But it is a concern that kind of disinformation needs to be addressed as well.
No, I mean, and you hear that all the time, right? We heard that last year while we were talking about our own budget, is like, why don't we start with the administrators? And then we looked and it's like, okay, great, you cut out a few administrators, you just saved $300,000 a year. We're gonna spend on a piece of electrical equipment. I've got a sheet of paper in front of me right here. That's just $173,000 alone in wages. Like, that's nothing, So yeah, you're right about that.
And honestly, I think a bigger piece of the pie is the health insurance.
You're right.
Yeah.
That's the biggest part of everything.
Okay, so we have a decision to make about responding to White River Valley or having some correspondence with White River Valley. Do I have a motion
I
to?
move, we continue conversations with White River Valley and see what they have to say.
Okay.
Bev, as you're working on that motion,
Yes. Terrible motion, I know. I'm trying to think of what am I trying to say?
are you suggesting perhaps that you'd like the superintendent or the board chair to draft a letter expressing an interest in potentially meeting with them?
I like that. I move that we either have our board chair or our superintendent draft a letter to the White River Valley Supervisory Union to continue discussions about learning more about potentially joining their supervisory union.
Second.
A second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Emil. Any further discussion about that?
I would just want to highlight that we invited them to the table to discuss some kind of collaboration almost a year ago. They didn't respond. We invited them again. I think we still didn't get a response. And then they reach out to us for something similar but different. And
The nerve.
I just want to point out that we asked and we asked and got nothing.
And we're gracious in our
Yes.
response.
Yes,
We are nothing but gracious.
as a point of discussion.
Yes.
On this
Now,
motion.
and I would just point out that as Emil noted, having a conversation with them does not mean that we're saying, sure, we'll join you. And it might be interesting to just sort of hear, because I'm still grappling with sort of the governance structure of the supervisory union, because it's been so long. Even we were operating at this district, we were actually operating out of the supervisory union before we consolidated into one district.
You were a much more functional supervisory union doing a lot that was consolidated into the supervisory union structure,
And
yes.
we initially saw in doing that,
Yep.
we saw some clear savings and some rehabilitation of Braintree School, for example.
Yes.
As we worked that way, we were able to bring it up as a whole unit, as we were working as a whole unit, more out of the supervisory union than out of the little district meetings. So it's just, I would like to hear a little bit more about how that whole structure works, because, and then you're spread all over.
Right, even just the logistics of where's the meeting.
Yeah, I just, and plus I was, and just thinking about the geography of the state, and as we sort of think about getting people together, anyway. But we're still in discussion mode. Are we ready? Any other comments before we take a vote? Sam?
Yeah, I've got one comment just as we go through this whole thing, thinking about what the state's doing, thinking about our conversations with Payne Mountain and whatever other districts we're going to talk to. I just really feel like the logistics question of bus routes should not be the top problem when we're trying to find a solution to better serving kids. I think the logistics of bus routes is solvable. And I think we just got to get a little more creative on that. So that's just my 2 cents on logistics.
Okay. So are we ready to call for a vote?
Wait, I got one more comment. I would
Okay,
also
sure.
say, it seems like the state has, and I think all of us in some sense want property taxes under control. But the state has a goal of controlling costs. And as we talk about what the state's going to do and what the state wants, I think we can lose sight of the idea that our goal is to serve our students well and to enhance the offerings and the physical plant that we send our children to learn.
Mhm.
The high school facilities was like what started this conversation for us about supporting students in this space or in a different space, but.
Right.
No, I'm done. Thanks.
Yeah, who knows, maybe it could result in a larger pool of money or something.
Okay. So I'm gonna call the questions. See, if you would like either myself or Michael to address a letter to White River Valley Union Supervisory Union District. Did I get it right?
White River Valley
Valley
Supervisory
SU.
Union.
Supervisory Union, to, get together and, discuss, uh, discuss,
To write a letter to continue the communications. I think
continue
is what
to
the motion
talk
is,
about, you're right,
Yeah.
to talk about,
The motion on,
yes. Say aye. if you
Aye.
agree.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Being none, so it's unanimous. We didn't have any abstentions, did we? I didn't see every word there. Okay, good.
Moving to the transformer quick here. I've
Moving to the
already got you
transformer.
35 minutes behind. So.
Okay, all right, moving to the transformer.
So you know that we've talked about a transform, I mean, you've got it in the packet and I'm gonna give you the highlights so that we gain some time here.
Sure.
You got a 70-plus-year-old transformer. It's original to the building, 35-year life expectancy. Could fail anytime. They don't like it when I talk about that. If it fails, we won't have electricity in this building. We'll be needing to relocate. It'll also take down a fair amount of the technology infrastructure and the phone systems and things like that. So I've come to the conclusion that we're going to be operating in whatever configuration. I believe this building's going to be being used as a high school for at least the next 5 years. We need to go ahead and replace that transformer. In order to replace that transformer, they did some preliminary work last year, determined that $350,000 would probably maybe get the job done kind of thing. That was sort of the ballpark. Before they go out and do a formal bid, I needed to come to you. We would have to use money out of the facilities reserve account. And so I'm not asking you for that money tonight. I'm asking you to say, yes, you need to figure out how to get that transformer replaced. Go ahead, get the bid going. We know we're gonna get a big ticket item brought to us later, and we understand that and we're ready for it.
Is this part of what you were referencing the last time when you said you planned on spending some?
Yep. I got another project after this one, right? But this is the one that's mission critical right now, and we've got to get this up and going. But once we get this one sorted out, there's another. The good news is, you'll remember that you voted on moving $900,000 to the reserve out of the surplus, right? So you've got 1.4 million in the account right now. $900,000 goes in soon. So it's still growing, but the capital reserve account is still increasing. Right. I also think that it's smart to probably do some of those projects that you need to get done, given the fact that you're going potentially into a merged district and the money that you've put away is going into that merged district as well. So I think that's a part of what you should be considering as you're doing this.
Okay, do we need a
Do
motion?
I have a motion to direct Michael to go ahead and start
I
the,
don't know that I need a
or you
motion.
don't need a
I
motion?
need
we
the sense
just
that
need
the
a sense
consensus of the
agreement?
board is, yes, we need to move forward with this.
Yep.
and-
Authorizing us involved to do that.
Yeah.
Sounds like a really good idea.
Great,
Okay,
that's all I need.
okay, Michael, you're on again for,
Let me get-
everyone should have seen in his report also about, Visbit and VHI. These are the two insurers for the district, one for healthcare and one for liability buildings,
Yeah.
property, like property.
Can you grab it right here?
Yeah,
Here you
you
go.
take it.
So you have two different entities. One takes care of your liability insurance, your unemployment, that's Visbit. I'm the chair of the Visbit board. Each year there is an annual meeting that coincides with the VSBA, VSA annual meeting in October. And happening again this year. Because you're a member of that pool, the Visbit is not an insurance company, it is a risk pool. And that is who provides that liability insurance for you and the unemployment insurance. You have votes at that annual meeting. I've been on that board for 8 years now. I've never been on that annual meeting where there's something controversial. What usually happens at that meeting is, and what will happen at that meeting this year is the pool will approve the annual report. They will elect a slate of board members, and then they'll open it up to questions. That's what the agenda essentially comes down to. You need to decide who you are going to give your proxy, who it's going to be the proxy voter for the Orange Southwest School Board. For Visbit, I can't be that this year. I am on the ballot. It's interesting because the places that you can proxy are to your superintendent, which is typically what's happened in my career with the different boards I've represented. It's how you did it last year. You could proxy to one of your own who is going to be at the meeting, or you can proxy the vote back to the Visbit board. So,
Okay, so can we have any questions about that whole thing before we call a motion to assign a proxy?
Anne, are you going to be at the meeting?
Yes, I don't want to be a proxy.
Okay, that's.
I would prefer not. Yeah.
as I told Ann that most of the time that I've been on the board has enough votes. The secret here is that enough boards proxy the vote to the Visbit board, that the Visbit board almost always has enough votes to carry whatever motion they put forward.
With that knowledge, I move to proxy our votes to the Visbit board.
I second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We're good.
Okay,
Unanimous.
VHI, very similar, except for it's your health insurance. Again, nothing big happening with that. Same sort of pattern. I don't believe there's anything special that they're voting on this year. I am able to be your proxy should you want me to be your proxy for the VHI board. You could go so you can proxy to the superintendent there, you can proxy to one of your own that's attending, or you can give that to you can proxy to the VHI board.
I move that we proxy Michael, we appoint Michael as proxy to the VHI.
I will
Meeting.
second that. So Rachel Gatus moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Michael, do you feel you have capacity to?
I do.
Very good.
Thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
And then, and the last thing in that section is your non-licensed support staff contract negotiations,
Yes.
which section 2.1 of your agreement says honor before October 1st, the school year prior to which the agreement expires. Either the association or board may notify the other party if it desires to negotiate a successor agreement. You do desire to negotiate a successor agreement, and so you should make a motion tonight to authorize the superintendent to send a formal letter to the association indicating the district's intent to negotiate a successor agreement.
So moved.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ryan. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
And I did my best to get us sped back up.
Yeah, you did very well.
We
Thank
closed
you
the
so
gap
much.
there.
All right. Now, the next board education, this also should go relatively quickly. We've just put some reminders on the agenda for the policy governance virtual training that is going to be starting in September 25th at 6 p.m. We're all registered and we'll all get an email and probably a reminder email as that approaches. Remember, we're all covered in that. If you can make it, great. If you can't, don't worry about it. The goal would be to get as many of us each time. This will be we're going to sort of use it as our monthly training or monthly education. And it gives us a chance to just talk about policy governance and how it works, questions we have, issues that are coming up. How does this fit into policy governance? So hopefully we'll see at least some of you there each month. And you can, Michael or myself, if you have any questions, probably most likely Michael, because he set up the training. And this is offered through the VSBA. Debbie Singheiser does the policy governance work, and Jeannie Collins, both Deweese, who we had before for our training. And then the other reminder is about the conference, the VSBA conference. If you would like to attend, it's going to be up in Burlington this year. It has been for a long, long time at the Lake Maury Inn, but they've changed the venue to the Doubletree in Burlington, which I think is that the old Sheraton? Is that the one?
Yes, it's
Right when you get off the
Yep.
interstate
Exit
on the right.
14.
So if you are interested, contact Kyle. She will make sure
Next 2
we
weeks.
get.
I think you can get done in the next 2 weeks.
Okay, so in the next 2 weeks. So there we go. Moving on.
A question though, on the Thursday night for the 25th, it's virtual. I'm assuming that means that it's online, and is it
Yes.
recorded? Can you watch it later if you need to?
Last time I did that training, they did record them. So you can go to a recording afterward.
I believe that'll be true this time. They're
Yeah,
typical-
I would
It is
guess.
their
that-
typical pattern, Martha, to do that. I guess I can't guarantee it, but I would expect. it.
Yeah, I'm guessing that that's what they'll do. So then the last item in board education is, we had talked about last time, just reviewing open meeting law at the October meeting. So I had sort of put out a feeler at the end of or during the last meeting, if anybody was interested in sort of taking the lead on that. Or has any suggestions about how to do it. I'm wondering, or you could be in touch with me. Or if you want, how you want to do that. I guess is the question for the board. Michael, do you know, we don't want to watch an open meeting webinar as a group. That would take a ton of time.
What about something like we have, a set of like, what are the open meeting law, like what are the policies? And then we apply that to a couple of scenarios.
Okay,
What about Pietro?
have Pietro come in? He would charge us, right?
Yep.
Mhm.
I bet he would be open.
Knowledge isn't free.
Knowledge is not free. And we could limit it for, to have 15 minutes, 20 minutes,
He's got half a minimum.
an hour.
Yes.
Yeah, so half an hour training with the legal counsel.
Would you like me to reach out to Pietro for a suggestion?
I
Yes.
think that would be
That
great.
might be a good, yes.
And then would you like me to move forward with that suggestion if that suggestion costs a specific amount?
I
Or
think
would you like me just to do it?
I think we can trust you to determine if it's reasonable.
So do we have a motion? Do you need
I,
a formal motion to?
I never feel like I need a formal motion for
Okay.
stuff like that, but if you
But
want, if
we
you're,
probably
it's a
should
direction, it's,
do a
but I,
formal motion. So
Sure.
Ryan, would you like to make that?
yeah,
formal
I'll
motion,
move,
please?
that we enable Michael to reach out to Pedro Lynn to discuss the potential for a educational session on open meeting law and go forward with it if he deems it reasonable with his own discernment.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Rachel Fish. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I,
Okay. And then along those lines, I'm just doing a little housekeeping. Does everybody have, you don't have to have it with you, but did everybody get a laminated, executive session, open meeting law
In your binder.
in your binder?
The 2-pager.
A 2-pager, yeah. Does everyone have that?
I'd have to look.
Probably.
I would
Okay.
think they
It's not
do,
in
but I
the
don't
front of my
remember.
binder before this meeting,
Okay.
so I will check.
Okay, so if everyone would just look, and if you don't have it, would you please let Kyle know? And she will get you a handy dandy. It's nice because it gives you just sort of a quick executive session and motion making and open meeting law part to just kind of keep you aware of what you're doing. All right, moving on, monitoring the organization. We have, executive limitations monitoring reports 2.0, 2.8, and 2.9 that Michael, went over with us at the last meeting. Everyone hopefully had a chance to go through them a little bit more carefully. And I'm gonna open it up. I guess we'll do them one at a time, and then, so I'll open the floor to a motion to either accept or reject, executive limitation 2.0 monitoring report. That's the global executive constraint. Basically, Michael will follow the law. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
So moved. Do I have a second?
I'll
Second.
Second. Do we have any discussion or any questions, anything that we've seen in that we're not clear on? Okay, all those in favor of accepting 2.0, please say aye.
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 Just a hint for you all here, Kyle would love the same motion and second through this section. It makes cutting and pasting easy for him.
Okay,
I remember what you said.
Do you want to be nice to your minutes taker?
okay. So we're entering next to, executive limitation 2.8. This is communication and support to the board. And I'm opening up the floor for a motion to accept or reject 2.8. So moved by Rachel
To
Gates.
accept or reject?
To accept.
Thank you.
To accept. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Brian. Do we have any questions on monitoring report 2.8? Okay, seeing none, we'll call the vote. All those in favor of accepting 2.8, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Moving next to. Where is my next one? Anyway, the next one is
Page 13.
2.9. And that one is the one for,
Required policy.
having all of the required policies. So can I have a motion to accept or reject the monitoring report for 2.9?
Motion to accept.
Motion to accept from Rachel,
Second.
seconded by Ryan. Any further discussion or questions regarding that monitoring report? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that one passes. All right, moving on to financials. Michael, do you have, anything to report?
Or in early on 25, 26, no, nothing,
Nothing standing out,
right? And
unexpected?
24, 25 is still percolating along just as we expected. So
Okay.
no major changes.
Okay. All righty. So we are moving into, policy decisions for district governance. And I'm gonna have Michael introduce the, proposed version of our, updated ends. He and Deanie didn't change the substance so much as more making sure it's in policy governance language. And hopefully Michael will share on his screen because ahead of the meeting, Rachel had been reviewing those new ends and she had put a suggestion in for reworking the sentence more grammatically,
content,
nothing, yeah, just more
some
changing
Grammar
the,
clarity pieces
right, right. So you can
and
see,
brevity.
right, hopefully everyone can read that from where they sit. And I'm gonna give us about, if you want to take, let's take 2 or 3 minutes just to read through the global statement, that's the main statement. And then we've specified, if you remember with policy governance, you start with your broad global statement and then you specify below it in terms of giving a little more direction about where we want to go. So I'm going to give Rachel a little time to read.
So the yellow highlighted is my suggestion. And the one below it is the one that was kept out in the superintendent's report and the board got it.
Yeah, I actually really like that. Not actually, but just really like that.
And if we look at it and we're looking at the,
So is that the only piece that we're looking at? I had some things that I noted on the,
oh no, we're just starting with the global statement and then we'll move down to the more specific sections. Think you, that's
Yes,
helping me.
I
I
don't know
feel
if
like I'm at the eye doctor's. Okay, that's good.
And I could even go a little more if you want.
Okay, that's better.
I don't know, Sam, if that changed anything for you, but okay.
And the key things we want to be thinking about is, have we clearly stated the results or outcomes for the organization and who the intended recipients are? And I think we've done that. And at what worth? And that's that, the at what worth is as supported by community approved resources. So we have those two options. Do folk, I will take, I guess, a no.
No,
Want a little more time?
yeah, the part about being prepared to take care of themselves. Like not
Mhm.
everyone will,
Right, yeah.
not everyone will be
agree.
able to.
Yeah. That's a
And
good
so,
I was trying to figure out what to do with the personal well-being. 'Cause you
Yeah,
I
the
think,
pers-
like prepared for personal well-being.
yeah, the personal well-being, the phrase doesn't fit right there,
Right.
like in that list of things. But can we just take out the prepared to take care of themselves
Yeah.
piece?
Be active contributors to community. Yeah.
Does that cover the sense?
Especially because we have, like, we've talked about, like, essential life skills is already listed.
Yep, right.
Mhm.
So yeah, I 100% agree.
So I think what we're talking about doing here is we're gonna work off of Rachel's statement. And you would like to
We'll still
delete,
prepared to.
Yep.
Prepared to be
active.
active.
There we go.
Keep
Be
prepared
the
to,
prepared
So-
to,
take care of themselves and. Yes.
Take care of it. Dear.
prepared to be active contributor.
All students who learn science. We could say prepared to actively contribute to their communities.
Yeah, that's better.
And be prepared to actively.
Get rid of B.
Once you start seeing the two,
To be-
it's like now.
Yeah.
That's not-
If you guys work it just a little bit more, you're gonna cut it in half, which would be beautiful. I love
All
it.
students of Orange Southwest. Prepared to actively contribute to their community. The grammarians in here. It sounds a little funky to me.
Which part?
The middle, the parenthetical little phrase there, but is it grammatically correct?
Because there's will graduate with strong academic, community, essential life skills, and then it's comma, and then you have another verb, prepared to, and so it's like, it's an independent clause.
Okay. Okay, so, I guess I'm gonna have the board start by maybe just doing a voice vote as to, are we satisfied with that global statement? Do we, all of
Yes.
those in favor of the global statement as written there on the top? Everybody in
Yep.
Yes.
line with that? Okay. And then we can move down and I'll give you a little bit of time. And again, remember, that's our global statement. So then the next level down is just giving a little more direction to the system in terms of what we mean by that.
And
That's
these were
covered in
very-
that.
And these were
above
very much driven by the
the
portrait
portrait of the
graduate.
graduate. Exactly. Right.
So in that one, I noted STEAM again instead of science and technology. I had the A as a part of that, but A is already there as a separate entity. With social studies, I wanted to make sure American heritage is embedded as a piece of the social studies.
I think that's
That's by
That's
law.
that's a piece of social studies, just like, we wouldn't say like mathematics and algebra, right? Like, it's
Right.
like a piece of that.
I would love, yeah. I'm concerned that someplace down the road, somebody decides to just dilute it and say social studies is looking at people groups from anywhere around the world kind of scenario, and the American heritage piece gets sidelined. That's the piece that I'm nervous.
So I think that's covered by, I'm gonna forget the correct name, but there's state guidelines around what has to be taught, and I understand that American history is a component of that requirement. But I'm
That's true.
happy to be corrected if I'm speaking.
Is that,
That's true.
that is
And-
correct. So it would be in that social studies. section.
Are we looking at all three of them, or are we just looking at the top one?
All of it.
Okay, so under financial literacy, I also was breaking out, and perhaps this is gonna fall in the same category, but consumer math is something that has historically been missing in general. So I want to make sure that financial literacy includes consumer math skills.
I would think so.
Yeah,
I think so, and I think although I agree with you profoundly on both of the points you made, I do think that we have to be very careful to keep these general. Otherwise, we're getting into defining curriculum, right? And we don't, that's not what this is about. Just like civics, you know, there are a million things I want to see about in civics. Yeah, I'd love a whole thing about town meeting day, but this is not the place for that.
My concern is that these get blown up at some point and become the overall goal without them referencing the down the road minutia that we're talking about here too.
Yeah, I think though that what happens is you get a report on the ends at the end of each year, or a year later at the moment, and if you're not happy with the monitoring report on the ends at the end, then you would not accept the ends report. And you would say, we don't accept the ends report. We want to know more about this.
Well, no, remember, the interpretation has to be
Oh, is it
reasonable.
reasonable?
If it's
Sure.
reasonable,
I mean,
we-
somebody
we
could have,
then need to go back to the drawing board and say, wait a minute, we're gonna accept this ends report, but we're gonna take civics and we're gonna say, we want something on town meeting, because it wasn't in there. And it wasn't in the ends. Students didn't know anything about town meeting. So that's when you would do it, is if, and so one of the things that we're gonna be looking at is once we adopt these, if we adopt them, Michael's gonna be taking them to his administrators, his curriculum people, and they're gonna be interpreting, okay, how are we gonna break this down in terms of our interpretation of what it means and what we're gonna pull out as the highlights for evidence that we're meeting these ends. You're not gonna get the minutia of it. Is not in an ends report. You can't, that would be, first of all, then they would just be spending all of their time creating an ends report. So remember, it's sort of like in the training when you say, you say, I want you to put on a party, and you might say, it's gonna be a birthday party, and I want ice cream and some cake. And you might leave it at that, and then they'll take it and they'll say, okay, a party, I'm gonna do chocolate cake and vanilla cake, because some people don't like chocolate, and some people don't like vanilla, and I'm gonna do a couple of styles of ice cream, and they're gonna bring it back. And at that point, that's reasonable. It's a party, it's a birthday party. But if you don't like that result, that end result, then you got to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, we need to look a little bit more closely and give more direction. So this is this enough? Are we feeling comfortable with the amount of direction we're giving, and giving the latitude to the professional educators? And remember, they're also, his job is also to stay in line with state requirements, probably even some federal requirements, and then meeting all of those ends as well, and sort of showing us how we're doing meeting these ends. Does that make sense? And if you remember, our old ends left a huge amount of latitude to the superintendent. If I remember, our old ends were preparing students for the next stage of their lives. They all have the old ends policy. And then we said critical thinking. Students creatively apply experience and critical analysis to solve problems and make informed decisions. Foundational knowledge, which was basically the same, although we didn't use the more updated ELA language. We used reading, writing, and communication. The rest,
There's definitely precedent to say that these should be general things with.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Yeah, and I think they're more specific than our original end, so I
Right.
think this is an attempt to kind of take something that was really broad and give more specificity to it without dictating curriculum, since that's not the job of the board.
Right.
Do we vote on this?
I think it's
No,
first
we
read.
is this our
It's a
first read?
first
Yeah.
read, yes.
Perfect.
So first read, and this was, are we good with this being the first read? Are there any other changes that we want to?
I would like to. The very last one, respect for and inclusion of diversity. I'm not sure how to word this, but somehow I would like to, some of the diversity education that's coming through comes across with divisiveness. And I would like to make sure that it's diversity that's inclusive and not divisive.
That's more of a how or a means that you're requesting. Because it clearly says respect for and inclusion
Respect for.
of diversity, so I would imagine that's covered. And the how is gonna be the professional educators. Beth, you look like you had a question.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I think of as something that I would like to see students come out with is curiosity. Right? Like, I feel like that's kind of lacking these days. So
How
just
about
a
in 1
sense
through
of,
6?
a
where it
sense
says
of curiosity about the
creative
world, about
thinking
anything.
and
I don't know.
creativity.
And maybe that doesn't fit in there, but I feel like that's something we should be fostering in our schools, is a sense of curiosity about the world instead of being judgmental, being curious.
I think we talked about that last fall when the ends committee met, and I think our attempt to bring attention to that is what Martha pointed out, the 1.26, critical thinking and creativity. And having curiosity is really kind of the combination of those two things. I think that was the attempt. I mean, I'm not opposed to adding curiosity. I guess it's up to the other board members.
Personal development.
I think you achieved that through some of these other things. I agree. I think that is a desired quality.
I'm glad to have you brought that up, though.
I mean, I don't see anything wrong with doubling down on alliteration here, doing critical thinking, curiosity, and creativity. I don't really see a downside there.
How do we measure that?
That's fair.
That's
good question.
for the professional
the
educators.
professionals.
to-
Did you measure curiosity? That was one of your ends in Grand Isle, wasn't it?
It was definitely my mission for
Very in your
sure.
mission.
Measuring curiosity.
Our mission was to ensure that all members of the GISU learning community are curious, creative, courageous, and capable of pursuing their aspirations in a diverse and ever-changing world. I used to be able to do it with one breath.
A lot of alliteration at the beginning of that too.
I didn't take a deep breath at that. But
I mean, teachers qualitatively evaluate how curious a student is.
So
while
you have
they ask
curiosity
questions
and
about
creativity in
that's
that
truly
line, right?
What they're seeing in the world.
Curious, creative, courageous,
Are
and
they
capable.
Yes,
engaged in
so
class
maybe
and
curiosity
Want to learn?
needs to
I
be
can
added
tell
to
right
that
there,
line.
there's the curiosity.
I wouldn't be opposed to it. I think it's a balance. I mean, I think we were attempting to get there, but I think maybe we didn't land there.
Yeah, I don't have like super strong feelings about it, but I agree with you that it's important and I'm fine,
Yeah.
I'm fine with adding it if we want to add it.
So how do we want to do a straw poll? How many of us would like to add curiosity
Into 1.2.6.
into 1.2.6? Can I see a show of hands?
Sure.
Okay.
There we go.
All right, so we're gonna add curiosity in there. Critical thinking, curiosity, and creativity.
Long time.
So it's pretty.
That's true. Right,
All
so
right,
yeah.
thank
That
you
was,
for
that was
moving in our
really
stride.
useful and valuable. I'd like to respectfully encourage that we speed things along.
Then we move along. Okay, so there we are. Monitoring the board. This is our policy 4.2. It's basically your job description. And I'm just gonna ask the board, overall, we feeling like we are complying fairly well to this policy? And are there any areas that folks looked at that where you felt like maybe we need to make some improvements or should focus a little bit in terms of improvements?
I guess
I did have one area that I thought should be, a better length, because the Herald is in this area, the primary, public communication. Granted, an awful lot of people use Front Porch Forum as well, but, there are pieces that don't necessarily meet, no, I won't go into that. But, when I went to look for some items and I looked under school board, I looked under, when I went to look for the pieces on anything to do with the portrait of a graduate, they were pretty noticeably not present in the Herald. So one of the things that I would like to say perhaps should be, more often approached is articles in the Herald about what's happening in the schools.
So you would like to, I guess I'm a little confused. So are you saying, is that a linkage to the community that?
sounds like it's educating owners on issues impacting the organization.
Right, number one,
Number one on the first page,
Item
Point
two.
page 19, I guess it is.
Okay,
so Martha, it sounds like you think we should put most of the time on there, or some of the time maybe.
Are we putting it for everything? I mean, are we
No, I think
Are we
every,
going one by one on what we're saying most or all the time? Or are we, that's an area that I thought should be improved.
okay, that's, and you're suggesting that the board should, share more about what's going on, the board. So because we do have our ownership linkage committee that Sam, are you on it now,
Yep.
Ryan? Yeah. So maybe when we do our letter, see if you can get it in the Herald. Is
Sounds
that
good.
sort of
seems reasonable.
seems like something to work on?
Yep.
Okay. Anybody else see anything in there
Yeah,
that?
I mean, I think relatedly, I was just gonna note, and I don't need to like
Belabor it.
source this now. I just wanted to put out there that I guess I'm curious if there are any models out there of school boards that have found ways to more systematically and broadly get input from the community. Cause it's like, I know the people that I know, but that's a particular group.
That is an excellent question for when we do our PG training, because I've been to several PG trainings and that's a big part of what we talked about. So
Okay.
I think that's great. If you can hold it for that, that would be awesome. Okay. So moving on. We are moving to the consent agenda. So this is approval of our minutes and new hires and resignations. Do you have any?
The new hires are in there. Yeah.
The new hires are there, yeah, so,
You don't actually approve the
and we
resignation,
don't
so I,
approve resignations.
It was,
And generally, we don't pull anything out of the consent agenda unless I have a motion to pull something out for discussion. So otherwise, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Well, how's that?
so moved.
So moved by
You
Ryan.
got- Oh, all right.
I'll second it.
Rachel
Thanks,
Fish will be
Rachel.
our second. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, I'm moving on now. We do not need an executive session.
That's Superintendent's report.
Oh, superintendent's report.
Thanks.
So,
Got most of it in writing,
Yeah.
and I won't go, I managed to go through most of it at different spots. I will draw your attention in two directions, though. The first direction is, I really would like to congratulate Patrick Martin, Katie Rothsgard, and Peter Busha on their nominations as OSSD and RTCC Outstanding Teachers for the UVM Outstanding Teacher Award. Well deserved. We're proud of the work that they do, and I just want to draw some attention their way. And then the other thing that I would draw your attention towards is last meeting, we talked a little bit about administrators within our district. I told you I would get you the administrators within our district. I sent it as a separate email on Monday. And so what I did was I went through, I pulled, by I mean Kyle, pulled the contracts for people who were on administrator contracts. At Randolph Union, you have a principal under an admin 1 contract and an associate principal under an admin 1 contract. So you have 2 principals, 2 administrators at the high school and middle school. At the elementary school, you have 2 principals at level 1 contracts there. So your schools, each of your schools with over 300 kids in them have 2 level 1 administrators. Your Brookfield school has 1 level 1 administrator. Your Braintree school has 1 level 1 administrator. Your tech center has 1 level 1 administrator and 1 level 2. And then at the central office, you have a superintendent as an administrator on a superintendent's contract. And then your business manager, your special education director, and your director of curriculum and student achievement are, each of those 3 are on level 1 contracts. Your 2 facilities directors are on level 2, as is your technology director, your food service director, and your transportation coordinator. So that is the administrators that you have within the district. I would surmise to you, or I would suggest to you that that is a relatively small administrative group. If you were looking to cut that, if you asked how that compared to other places, so you probably get rid of the food service director and contract out food service, or you could get rid of the transportation director and contract out transportation. But other than that, I would say that a district your size and the schools your size generally have administration that looks like that. And I think that you've seen several reports from me where we have essentially eliminated 2 administrative positions in the last year and downsized other.
If we contracted out those services, those specialized services, would there be significant cost savings?
Special ed is not one that.
Not special ed,
Sorry.
bus and food.
Bus.
No.
Food,
In
thank you.
fact, if you
That's- I-
contract out transportation, it will cost you.
So why would we do that then?
Yeah, well, I think that that's the point to the community,
Yeah.
right? Is that you have right-sized with administration and you have kept on track with staying in control. Your transportation would be, I think, probably 30% higher than what it is right now if we weren't in our own.
I feel like I need that list laminated, carried around my wall. I know what now when I'm talking to the community, like, look at our lean, mean admin team.
I love that.
Yeah.
I might steal that. And then the last thing that I want to bring to your attention, right? I'm getting us right away from administrators for a second. The very last page of your paper packet or your packet that you received via mail is your opportunity to go out and participate in the Parent Square app. If you choose to participate in the Parent Square app, you have access to all of the school newsletters that go out. Heather used to spend part of her time on Friday in order to get your packet out, collecting all of these for you. And I don't have Heather anymore. That's part of the downsizing here. We're all going to feel a little bit with it. So I'm going to have you go out and get your, if you want the community newsletters from the school buildings, I'm gonna have you get them the same way the rest of the community gets them by participating in Parent Square. I am happy to hang out with you and help you download Parent Square and get connected and all of that stuff, but if you do that, you actually get to see them all as they come out live. And if you want to go back and look at old ones, you can do that too. Fair enough? What's that? It is open to everyone in the
How
community who wants it.
do you opt into additional schools? Like I get the one for the elementary school because I have kids in it, but like, how do I get a newsletter from the high school?
There is a link in there that when you go in there, there's a spot.
Okay, I just have
Where
to
you can-
search around a little more, I guess.
And I would be happy to search around with you if you want it. If you get hung up on it, because if I get stuck on it, I'm just gonna pass it off to somebody else who's an expert.
Okay. I'm gonna say that we are ready to adjourn. Unless,
I was just gonna say, I think the only action item recap is
oh, action item recap.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Michael or you will reach out to White River. You can work it out
Alrighty, you
amongst
sign it.
yourselves. It's an open motion.
Okay,
To sign up with Kyle within the next 2 weeks if you're going to the training the end of October. I think that was, we have a training coming up the end of September. I think that was it. Oh, and you'll follow up with Pietro about the,
the open meeting. Huh?
Yeah.
Thank you. That was great. Maybe we should do that. every time. We
I
keep
can do
track
that.
of the action items. Keep it very meeting. All right, we're out before 8. Woo,
Well done,
quick
everyone.
run.
So adjourning at 7:54, it looks like, yeah, right?
7:54, yes.